Da. And why is this like this? Well, this is new. Okay, I guess I'll just leave it like that. That's weird. I've never done that before. Okay. Alright. Hello, hello. Welcome. Let's make your chin just a little bit thicker. Dun, dun. Okay. like that, or do I want it like this? Oh, it's way too short. Do it like this. Dun, dun, dun. Hope everyone's doing well. Hello, hello. This over a bit. That's a little bit thicker than that. About here. A little bit more emphasis on her chin. Hey, Frost. Might want to bring down her tail just a little bit. It seems a little too high up. No worries, I kind of started a little late anyway. Yeah. Well, Andy and Emerald kind of break that pattern, at least. Which I'll be working on their comic after this one. I'm just working on one of my comics, but welcome. For this is the middle point for my Black Circus comic, which is, well, the story that's going on right now is about a character who's willing to do vor in order to make some money and try to pursue her life dream of being an actress. So this is more of like a filler section where she's dealing with some of the effects of someone she ate for the first time. So she's kind of like examining herself before her girlfriend gets home. She's just like, oh my god, I've put on a little weight already, type of thing. Giving her a little bit of second thoughts, but the money is good. Thank you. Debating if I want it to look that thick. She's from an angle, so I might want to slim that down a little bit. Because right now she's facing the mirror in her bathroom. And then once these pages hit like page 4, then I'll start uploading them on publicly. That's why I'm not having a problem with streaming them. Okay, so let's just say it'd be about here. Probably put one of her. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's do it like that. So, okay, I don't think I have to draw that. Uh, she is a duck that's also part several other animals, and she's basically just a negative bitch. Like if you've ever seen the series Daria that used to be on MTV and all that, she basically acts like that character. If you've ever watched that show, that's like the best way to explain her. And then my character is also a alcoholic for personal reasons. But initially I made her just to be able to vent about stuff that annoys me and shit like that, and then she just kind of ended up as my mascot. Because I have way more characters than just her. But she ended up getting the spot for that. Let's try to narrow this down a little bit. Hey, sometimes that's when ideas happen. Like, I remember, I mean, I don't even have to say remember because it literally became a thing. But, like, years ago, I had, like, a random dream of basically being on a, like, long story short, it's like basically being on a bus, looking out and seeing, like, a lake glowing in, like, blue moonlight. And then I'm off the bus. I assume it's me. I don't even know because most of the time, whenever I dream, it's from like me watching the event rather than the events involving me specifically. But in this case, I get off the bus, then start wandering around in just like pitch black, and then all of a sudden, I see like a lantern of some sort or like a glowing bell or something like that. And all of a sudden a sheep woman appears, and she seems kind of like displeased that I'm aware of her existence, but then she like shows me the way out, and then I wake up, and that ended up being this character. Let me grab her so I can show you. That ended up being this character. So sometimes you just get ideas or dreams at whatever time, and that's when you make a character or make whatever you decide to make. So if it happens, it happens. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. I just say you got drunk and slapped together with pieces of spare parts bin with the duct tape. But yeah, like a small handful of characters I've made came from dreams I've had. The drunk god, see. Yeah. Alright, there we go. Might want to move this over just a bit. But yeah, I'll show what Joanne looked like prior to this. Just find a decent page that's not all. Da-da-da. Trying to see. This one's fine. Yeah, I'll just go with this one. So yeah, Joanne was all looking like this prior. It's over a bit. No, this is really irrelevant. Who overstuffed the sausage? Well, we know who. Most random dream I had recently was like chilling on a beach drinking with Viro. Yeah, sometimes the dreams are random. Mine happen if my dreams progressively go from... Okay, so for me, my dreams act weird if I don't draw enough. So it goes from not dreaming of anything relevant or just flat out not remembering what I've dreamt to dreams getting weird where it's just like a random chain of events type of thing. Then it progressively gets either weirder or creepier, and then they start becoming nightmarish if I don't draw enough. And sometimes the threshold of me not drawing enough is whatever. So it just kind of happens randomly at that point. Because I could like draw all day, but I guess if it's not like to a specific degree, then it just doesn't count, I guess, to be the best way to put it. So it'll just go from like, don't dream anything at all, to, okay, how about we have you witness a genocide? Because that's happened before. I think at least twice. So I'm like, yeah. Because there's been times where I just get straight up nightmares where I'm just like, yeah, I don't feel like sleeping for the rest of the day, or for the rest of the night. So that's how it's balanced for me, both fortunately and unfortunately. Right side is every once in a while I get dreams that are worth drawing type of thing, or like get a character out of it that's worth drawing. But if I don't do it enough, that's when it starts getting nightmarish. And I don't really have an explanation for it. It could be a type of like venting where it's like, you know, I just gotta get all the ideas out type of thing, or something like that, or something equivalent to that. But yeah, that's how it works for me. Codename Kids Next Door was good. That was a good show. And we're not really going to see the top of this. Let's do that. It's a little more narrow than I would like, but it's fine. It's not like she's gonna open it. That's interesting. There was one time I dreamt of I guess it was an alien invasion, but like I was in like a stadium, and I just see like a bunch of ships flying around, just destroying everything. But then all of a sudden, my perspective shifts to like somebody sitting in like a, I don't know if it was like a dentist chair or a chair you would sit in to get your vision checked. I want to say it was the vision one, and there was like somebody sitting in a chair, but then like half of their body was like hollowed out, and you could see the inside, but the inside of it was just like gears and machinery, as if they were being like converted into a machine. And then my perspective was shifting to like an open door and just random people walking through, and this all had to do with like the invasion still, because that was what was being discussed. But like somebody was being like converted into a machine, or they just like got them in that state, and then I just ended up waking up. So I don't even know how to explain that one. I mean, none of them I can explain really. It just all happens randomly. Like, a lot of the time my dreams have nothing to do with what I was doing during the day or anything relevant at that time. Very rarely do I ever have dreams that were relevant to what I was doing prior. Like, it just normally doesn't happen that way. And then very rarely am I ever, like, the subject of my own dreams. Usually it's just me. Well, I say me, but it's more like I'm just watching watching a dream rather than being a part of it. And it's usually just me observing an event that usually has nothing to do with me. But very rarely am I involved in my own dreams. And then sometimes, even if the dream is from, like, my perspective, being involved, it's like I don't know if it's like me, or if it's like me in the role of somebody else. Because unless I'm like directly addressed, I don't know if it's one or the other. And then more often than not, I'll be in like a scenario where I'm just like me or whoever I'm supposed to be in is already like in mid conversation with somebody, and it's like the conversation's progressing as if I already know what I'm talking about, type of thing. So it's really hard to know what exactly I'm doing in my dreams until I catch something specific being discussed or mentioned or whatever. So it is not simple to work out until I get like enough context to be like, okay, this is what was going on, but I have no clue who I am or if I specifically was being involved in the matter. But usually it's just me observing other people in an event. Nothing, just working on one of my comics and talking about random dreams we've had. I guess our belly is fine this way. Can always make changes if necessary. Just darken her lines a bit more before I progress the other part. Oh yeah, sometimes I write down my dreams if it's like relevant enough or interesting enough. I haven't done that in a while though. I still have it written down, some of my stuff written down somewhere. But yeah, eating and sleeping happens in dreams. That's normal. I've done that multiple times in my dreams. And I remember hearing a case where I think it was a football player who got a concussion, and I think he was in like a coma for like I want to say like maybe a year. It could be longer or something, or maybe even less. And he basically dreamt up his whole life where he had like a wife and child. He had like daily routines and stuff like that. but for some reason in his dream, he kept seeing like a lamp, and the lamp for some reason kept being abnormal compared to everything else in the dream. So like you could look at the environment and it would be normal, but this lamp would be like either blurry or floating or like wobbly. It would just be a lamp that just kept being weird in comparison to the rest of the environment. And so he kept trying to figure out why the lamp looked weird throughout his dream. And eventually he ended up waking up in a hospital, and he found out that, you know, he had a concussion and all that, or he was in an accident and stuff like that, and he was in a coma. And he was really distraught because he had basically lived an entire life in his dream, and he had like family and stuff like that, only to realize that that was all of that was a dream. And he had like a really hard time adjusting when he woke up from his coma, because, you know, he lived a life when he was unconscious. And so he had to like go to therapy just to get through that. So yeah, that is a definite thing that can happen. Definitely wasn't in the mood to get up the next week. Oh yeah. And yeah, sometimes when you have like a really, really eventful dream or like realistic dream and you wake up, you just like really feel down or really feel demotivated to want to get up or want to do anything, because whatever you dreamt was like way more interesting or just better, and now you wake up to sometimes a letdown, and it's like, damn. But yeah, that's a thing. Currently watching 2012 TMNT. Lately I've been binging Beavis and Butthead, like from the very beginning to where I'm at right now. And it's interesting seeing the boys go through events where sometimes they work like odd jobs to try to make a little bit of money. They have their part-time job that they somehow still have. And then obviously there are events where their antics kind of, get them into the trouble that they get into. But sometimes there are episodes where the boys do nothing wrong, and like life still like just kicks them down, cuz like they're both like mentally stunted. Like, let's be serious here. Like they both have a mental disability, and they just like don't understand social cues and stuff like that, and obviously, standard education. But there'll be situations where they do absolutely nothing wrong and they still get fucked over. Because one episode in particular was when basically they were getting ready to see a movie, and they're both just fucking around for a bit because, they're psyched up to see the movie. They're bashing each other. Then two women show up and say like, "Hey, if you take us into the movie with you, we'll be your dates or whatever." And the boys are like, "Sure, fine. That sounds cool." And so the girls are like, "Okay, you give us your tickets and we'll let you in through the back." And Butthead, trying to be smart, says, "Wait, how do we know if you're gonna let us in?" And one of the girls says, "How about you give us your money as collateral? That way you'll know that we'll come back to let you in." And unfortunately, Butthead thinks that, okay, that's a good idea, not realizing that he's just giving them their money for nothing. So the boys give them their money and their tickets. They go to the back of the movie theater to wait for the girls to let them in. And the boys stand out there for like at least 2 hours, and it like rains on them and stuff like that, and they're standing out there in the cold, and for a moment they're like, "Hey, what's taking those girls so long?" And they're like, they come to the conclusion like, "Oh, maybe they're getting themselves ready for their dates," type of thing. And they're like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense." And then finally people are coming out of the movie theater because the movie's over, and you see the girls with their dates, because they came with two guys, and then spent the money on the two guys to get snacks and stuff like that. And all they do is just bash on the boys and say like next time have more money type of thing, and then they get pissed. They try to go in through the back to see the movie anyway, and then that's when one of the ushers shows up, asks them, "Hey, are you trying to sneak into a movie?" And they say yes because they don't understand how to lie, or that just to walk away and don't get caught type of thing, and they end up getting their asses kicked. And I was just like, damn, they didn't even do anything wrong in this episode, and they still got fucked over. It was just like really fucked up. And that happens every once in a while with the boys, but more often than not, it's their own stupidity that gets them in trouble. And just, having bad social cues, or very bad at explaining things. Because, like, a lot of the time they'll go off of, like, crude jokes where, like, if they hear, like, something that has to do with, like, boobs or a boner or whatever, they'll, like, laugh and try to be discreet about it type of thing. But they often don't understand that when they do that, sometimes the things that they say have a double meaning. And so when somebody's asking them a question and they're being vague, they get misinterpreted quite often. And they end up falling into a scenario that they didn't plan for. And then it's also just them being really uneducated, because one, they have a hard time learning, and two, they're just stupid and don't want to pay attention. And it often gets them into more trouble. Whether it be them accidentally offering more money than they intend, or thinking that they're going to be rewarded for something only to get gypped because they didn't understand the wording of what was being told to them. So it happens very often in that show so far. It wasn't Realistic Dream, it was cartoony. But yeah. You can still eat and stuff like that in a cartoony dream, because your mind is just gonna make up the logic in there anyway. But yeah, so far I've been watching Beavis and Butthead, and I'm on like season 4 or 5 right now of the original series before I even start the continuation series or seasons. But yeah, it's been interesting to see that sometimes the boys like do have a moment of clarity where they're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, and they try to like get themselves out of trouble. But then other times it's just like they really didn't do anything wrong and they still get messed up or fucked over for it. Let's tweak your nose just a bit more. But yeah, it's been interesting watching that series from the very beginning. Because like the first season is definitely the most crude, where the boys are just causing trouble for the sake of causing trouble. And it seems like they know what they're doing at during that time. Like they just seem like really like just trouble kids. Because like they'll like harm animals and stuff like that, and they'll go to like blood drives and have like all of their blood being drained because of an accident. But then once it gets past like the first season, that's when they're a little bit more grounded. Because there will be situations where the boys will be put into a scenario that realistically would have gotten them killed, but then they just show up the next episode as if nothing happened. And that's happened to a few characters where they're put in a scenario where they should have died or did die, and then it just continues on as if it didn't happen. And then other times there'll be situations where the people around them do get pissed off at the boys and like don't want to interact with them ever again, but then the next episode just treats it as if those events didn't happen. So that's like the only part that makes me wonder if certain events are even canonical to to their world, like if they even have like a ongoing story at all. But nothing seems to carry over very often. So everything's just more like a one shot for the most part. It's like, yeah, this happened, and then the next episode is reset as if nothing happened, because they've gone to jail, they've seemingly died, they've had mishaps with their teachers to the point where teachers want to kill them, type of thing, but then nothing happens. So actually, I think I know what I want to do now. I want to do this. All right, have a good night. And it's interesting seeing where the whole Cornholio thing came from, because originally it was just Beavis and Butthead dicking around in class, putting their shirts over their heads, and that was it. Like, there wasn't even like Beavis getting hyper to become Cornholio or anything like that. It was just a random joke, and then it later on became Cornholio. Have a good night. But yeah, cartoons do that just because they're not supposed to be taken seriously. So it makes sense. I do not like the way I'm doing that face. Let me change this. Be a little bit more expressive. Might shrink it down a bit. It is interesting in Beavis and Butthead though, where noticeably Butthead seems to be the smarter of the two, but Beavis has his like small moments of clarity and being like intelligent in a situation. And then it is interesting where a small handful of times when they're talking to Daria, because Daria originated from that show, that they'll try to correct themselves when they're talking to her. Like, at first they'll tease her by making fun of her name, but then when they're trying to have like a serious conversation with her or interacting with her in a way that they have to like get along type of thing, they'll correct themselves and try not to like make fun of her. So it's been interesting seeing that situation happen. It would have been cool to see Beavis and Butthead show up in Daria for whatever reason, whether it be like a field trip or something else. But yeah, I'm enjoying watching the series from the beginning. I'll add a little bit more detail to that in a bit. Let me shrink this down a bit. Cheeks just a little bit chubbier.
I think this horn would probably be over here. That's fine, that'll do. It's not gonna be pretty, but whatever. Okay. Add a little bit of details too. This cabinet. Nothing special.
Welcome back. Not too much longer before I stop streaming for the night.
Gonna need that.
Hello, kitty. That's cute.
I can always erase that, it's not a big deal. this.
The game's over.
Okay, I think I'm gonna call the stream for now. The rest of this is just going to be tedious background stuff. But yeah, this page will be ready pretty soon. Once it's ready, I'll post it on Patreon and all that. And like I said, once this arc or once this section hits page 4, that's when I'll start uploading them publicly. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will stream again tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific time. And I'll see you guys then, alright? You guys have a good night, or a good day. Take care.